Okay, so we all should have this written down. So the power rating power rating is the same as energy transferred over time taken. So the power rating can be found using power equals energy over time. So basically, the last two columns in there should be exactly the same because the power rating is the energy transferred divided by time. Okay? Andrew, you okay? Good. You written this down? Right, so Harris. So in symbols, power equals energy over time. P equals E over T. You've come across this equation before. You have used it before. So where P is the power measured in joules per second or watts, capital W. E is the energy transferred in joules, and T is the time taken in seconds. So it's important that you change it into time into seconds. So, for example, a car produces 600,000 joules of energy in 15 seconds. Calculate its power. So power equals energy over time. So you just put in the numbers. It's in joules and it's in seconds, so there's no transferring units. So it's 600,000 divided by 15, which is 4,000 watts. So these two examples at the bottom, numbers 1 and 2, are calculating things other than power in that equation. If you like triangles, you can draw one. So power, energy, and time. Well, that's an E at the top. So energy at the top, power, and time at the bottom. So have a go at examples 1 and 2. Remember, you need to change things into seconds before you put them into the equation. Started you off there if you need any help. We all done this one? Give you a couple more minutes before I put the answers up. Okay, so power equals energy over time. So remember, best practice is to put your numbers in, then rearrange. So the first one, your power is 100 watts. Energy is what you want to find out, and your time is 10 minutes, so 600 seconds. So 100 equals energy over 600. So the energy is 100 times 600, which is 60,000 joules. And for the second one, power equals energy over time. The power is 150. The energy is 45,000 divided by time. So the time is 45,000 divided by 150, which is 300 seconds. Did everybody get that? Or if anybody didn't get it, do they not know why? Right, so we will do practice on those. They're relatively straightforward though, as long as you watch your units. But I just want to go through this electricity bills, a couple of pages here. Now I want you to write at the top, these are not in the course. So you don't need to know how to do these, okay? So not in National 5, okay? So I don't need to worry too much about these because it does get a little bit confusing sometimes and it's quite an old-fashioned way of using physics. So how do you calculate electricity bills? It is quite interesting to know, and sometimes you can have a look at your electricity bills that are sent to your house and you can see where they get it from. Measure the electrical energy used by appliances in a home. These meters measure energy not in joules, but in units called kilowatt hours. So they're quite old-fashioned units that they use. So 1 kilowatt hour is the amount of electrical energy used by an appliance with a power rating of 1 kilowatt when it's switched on for 1 hour. And so the equation that links energy, power, and time is, we know that because we just used it, energy, but it's in a slightly different form, energy equals power times time. We've been using power equals energy over time, that's just it rearranged. So using this equation, we can calculate how many joules of energy are used if an appliance of power 1 kilowatt is switched on for 1 hour. So we can work out what 1 kilowatt hour is in our normal units. So energy used equals power times time. So remember, power is 1 kilowatt, so 1,000 watts. And the time is 1 hour. So we need that in seconds, so 60 seconds, 60 times 60. 60 minutes, sorry. 60 seconds. So that's 1,000 times by 3,600. And that comes to 3,600,000. So 3,600,000 joules. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 zeros. 36 with 5 zeros in the end. So 3.6 megajoules. So you can see how they use this weird sort of made up unit, because obviously if your electricity bills came in like megajoules or millions of joules, it would be quite easy to make mistakes, but also quite daunting. So the joule is too small a unit to use when we're dealing with domestic electricity. So how are electricity bills calculated? So this is sort of the one time where you don't convert into watts from kilowatts. You keep it in kilowatts. As I said, this isn't in National 5, so you can just ignore this after this if you want to, if it's just too confusing. So electricity bills are calculated in kilowatt hours by finding the number of kilowatt hours, which is the number of kilowatts times by the number of hours. So you know everything that I've told you about changing things into watts and changing things into seconds. For these, you don't do that. And the cost is the number of kilowatt hours times by the price for 1 kilowatt hour. So for example, calculate the cost of electricity for a 150 watt bulb that is switched on for 2 hours. And the cost of 1 kilowatt hour is 8 pence. So to find out how many kilowatt hours there are, you have to change the power into kilowatts, annoyingly, and change the time into hours. So the time is already in hours. So the kilowatts is 0.150. So that's how many kilowatts 150 watts are, times by 2. So the number of kilowatt hours is 0.30 kilowatt hours. Then if 1 kilowatt hour is 8p, then the total cost is the number of kilowatt hours times by that number. So 0.3 times 8, which is 2.4. Okay. I hate it doing this because it does confuse people because you have to change it into kilowatts and hours. And that's like everything that I've taught you out the window. So as I said, you don't need to worry too much about them, but it is good to know. So let's go through part A and then I'll let you guys have a go at the rest of them. So find the cost of running the following electrical appliances if the cost of 1 unit or 1 kilowatt hour is 8 pence. So assuming 1 kilowatt hour is 8 pence in all of these. So first of all, for 2 1.5 kilowatt electric fires for 4 hours. Okay, so how many kilowatt hours? So number of kilowatt hours. To do that, we do number of kilowatts times number of hours. So for this one, because there's 2 of them, we'll work out what 1 is and then we'll times it by 2. So for 1, and it is 1.5 kilowatts, so number of kilowatts 1.5 times by number of hours, which is 4 hours. And that is 6 kilowatt hours. Okay. For 2, the number of kilowatt hours is just going to be 6 times 2, so 12 kilowatt hours. Then we need to know the price, which is the number of kilowatt hours times by the cost for 1 kilowatt hour, which is 8. So 12 times 8, which is 96 pence. Okay. So find out the number of kilowatts, times it by the number of hours. That's your number of kilowatt hours. And then you find the price. So you're doing these steps. So number of kilowatt hours, number of kilowatts times number of hours. So work that out and then times it by 8. So have a go at the other ones. I'll work through them slowly. So if you're completely confused, you can just work through them with me. But if you want to just go ahead and have a go, please do so. So just watch, making sure things are in kilowatts and hours. I know it doesn't sound right. If you've done them all and you've got the correct answers, then you can move on to the question booklet, page 27, questions 1 to 7, from Harry's education plan. If you're not sure about any of these, please let me know.